What's going on, guys? And it's your boy Tiny. Today we're back with another really creepy video. And if I may say so myself, it has to be probably the scariest video I've ever seen. Why? Because it's true. We're taking a look today at the Illuminati training video that was leaked by Anonymous through WikiLeaks. Today we're going to explore the hidden agendas, how they operate, and what their plans are. If you like this content, all that I ask is you please like, share, and subscribe. Trying to get this thing off the ground, trying to spread truth, knowledge, and wisdom wherever I can. And it starts with you, the viewer. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please show some love, and let's get to it. Right off the bat, you got sun symbology within the pyramid. Goes all the way back to ancient Egypt.
Hello, initiates, and welcome to the Illumicorp video training course. I would like to officially welcome you as a member of the team. You've joined our organization at perhaps the most exciting point in our long history. Our founders shared a passionate dream to transform this country and eventually the whole world into one cohesive organization.
Right off the bat, that's the very first mention at aiming towards the New World Order. And he says as the ancestors. This actually goes all the way back to Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. Nimrod was the first Mason after the flood, so they claim, and the Tower of Babel was the first attempt at a New World Order, as the first attempt at a one world government and a one world religion.
When Illumicorp finishes gaining centralized control over the resources of the planet, and we will.
And again, right off the bat, he is going right into detail. He just flat out admitted that their goal is to gain control of all the centralized resources.
We can then organize, distribute, and govern for the benefit of all. After competition and dissent are eliminated, we will build a utopia for the people of the world to share, based on need.
I wonder what competition he's talking about being eliminated. And how would that result in there being just a wonderful utopia being left? Sounds suspicious.
And rejoice together in a harmonious new world.
New World Order reference number 2.
This presentation is designed to enlighten you about our organization's goals and achievements. As your guide, I will help to answer some basic questions you might have about Illumicorp and familiarize you with the valuable role you will play in helping us reach our prime objective. So please, take a tour with me as we march together towards an exciting new world. All people are aware of class. To them, society is made up of the rich, the middle, and the poor.
The one thing that all three classes don't understand is that the pyramid continues upward. There is a detached hidden capstone made up of an elite board of directors who own and manage Illumicorp. The three classes below, in essence, become the assets and resources of Illumicorp.
What he's basically saying is everybody below them are their slaves, their assets, their human resources.
Illumicorp is divided into various administrative branches, but each branch has the same 5 levels in their hierarchy. You will begin at the bottom, in the initiate category. As such, your role will be to make sure that your orders are carried out through the sub-corporations and institutions controlled by Illumicorp.
You will be placed in plain sight, at the head of a company or institution in the public sector, to carry out the plans delivered from above. Remember, your role is very important. You will be the face of Illumicorp to the outside world. You are our connection to the masses below. Never speak publicly about your orders or your masters.
Okay, two things really quick to talk about here. First of all, he's saying you are the face for Illumicorp to the public. These are people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. Okay, and I don't know how much more spookier it can get. When is the last time that you were at a job interview or job training, orientation, and they told you that you're never to speak about your orders or your masters? Well, who are their masters? Would you work for somebody who's referring to themselves as your master, or are they talking about somebody else? Just think about that there. And never mind the fact that throughout this entire video, if you look at this background here, it's almost as if he's standing off to the side of the burning hell. It's like burning clouds behind him throughout almost the entire thing. And you look at this man's face at any given point, I could pretty much pause this video. You can look directly in his eyes and see pure coldness. His face shows no emotion. This man is stone cold evil. Use your judgment.
Now let's look at Illumicorp's 6 administrative branches and their functions. You will be placed in a top position of power among one of the following sectors. In this way, as you are monitored and guided from above, you will decide strategy and introduce programs that further our goals. For that is the secret to Illumicorp's success. Control the head, and you control the body.
And he's completely outdone himself. That's probably the creepiest thing I've ever heard. But again, it's because it's true. This is how these folks operate. That's how they control things. It's a control system. Just like our government, just like our whole country for that matter.
This is potentially Illumicorp's most effective instrument for global control. Through international banking, we manipulate the fate of all countries. We have introduced many institutions, such as the IMF and WTO, that work in our favor to impoverish disobedient nations.
What he's talking about there is they own the entire money supply. Even though the money isn't worth anything, they own all the currency. They loan it to us, and we have to pay it back with interest. That's how we incur a national debt, a debt that can never be paid back. But if you notice, he's talking about impoverishing nations, disobedient nations, with organizations and central banking and organizations like the IMF and the WTO. Well, that's what he's talking about here, is enslaving these people by debt. And he says death is a powerful ally for those against those who don't share Illumicorp's vision.
Always remember, debt is a powerful weapon against countries that don't share Illumicorp's vision.
Look at that face, look at that face, and look at that background. Of course, you got your little Illuminati here.
Perhaps our greatest achievement in banking is the Federal Reserve System. It is a collection of international banks owned by Illumicorp members and financiers. It was created to form a centralized banking system through the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, an act that was indeed penned by some of our most esteemed members. Many of you might still assume that the government itself prints and issues the currency. That is not the case. When America needs money, they go to our boys and ask for it. The money is printed, but it is only representative of a loan. Interest accrues on that dollar until it is paid back to the Fed. In fact, the federal taxes paid by the American population go almost entirely to paying off this debt. So you see, Illumicorp derives a healthy amount of its operation funding directly from the debt of the public. Needless to say, this is one of our most crucial sources of funding, and one of of our proudest achievements here at Illumicorp.
Basically, they're getting beyond filthy rich by us chasing a ghost to paying a debt that we can never pay back. And that's why you see the pyramid continuously getting bigger, and basically the money just loops around and they double down or they double up on it every single time. Okay, and one thing I don't want to spend too much time going into, but the national debt works that same way. And I have a whole video on how it works in further detail, but just to give you a glimpse, so to speak, if you wiped away our entire national debt and you started it completely over from scratch, the Federal Reserve, say, for example, will loan us $1,000 and charge us 10% interest. Well, we now owe them $1,100, but only $1,000 exists. How can we pay off $1,100 debt with $1,000? Therefore, there's $100 that we will never, ever, ever be able to pay off. And you do this over and over and over and over again exponentially, and here we are. I just looked recently, we're $29 trillion debt. We're literally basically racking up $1 million a minute in debt. You can check out my other videos for details on how exactly that works.
Through mergers and acquisitions, we have slowly and silently bought up the majority of U.S. industry. Illumicorp and its members own most of the oil, transport, banking, media, food and communications industries in America and abroad. Through fewer and fewer conglomerates, we are able to effect with great precision the machinations of labor and government.
So if you've noticed over the past so many years, a lot of these new fast food chains have been given facelifts as if they were purchased by new owners. And you notice a lot of the environments have changed as well as the company logos. For example, Burger King, it traditionally had the words Burger King inside of burger buns. Very clever. But they transitioned that same logo into kind of like a moon, like a crescent moon type logo, which goes back to solar phallic cults, worship, stuff like that. And then we have things like the Illuminacho or the Illuminati. But you notice, and this, with the exception of the pyramid, you notice the bell, and you have that demonic looking eye inside of the 6 there. That's not coincidence, folks. And have you noticed over the past few years how McDonald's, which used to be a fun place for kids, so lively, so colorful, so vibrant, now it seems like McDonald's has had the soul just sucked right out of it. Have you been to a modern McDonald's recently? All the play equipment's gone, all the nice bright colors are gone. It's all plain and dark. It literally seems like the life had been sucked out of it. And that's what this man is talking about. He's serious when he's talking about, yes, we went and bought up all these corporations. We now control pretty much everything other than your local mom and pop shops and local businesses. We own everything.
Ultimately, corporations will replace government as a centralized international body that can meet the needs of the public worldwide without the chaos created by national self-interest.
What he's talking about here, back when Obama was pushing for the legalization of gay rights, back when they were throwing a big fit about canceling the Dukes of Hazzard and making a big fuss about the rebel flag. You gotta understand, when they're making big fusses about stuff, they're doing things behind the scene and they're trying to distract the public for it. fairly simple thing happens to work. But while all this was going on, they were trying to push through the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And what this did is it basically united corporations all over the world and then ultimately gave corporations power over government. And that's basically how they planned on merging all the countries into their new world order. Luckily, it was fought off, and we still have people that are awake and still fighting this. And they tried to get away with it, and damn near did. But as right now, it hasn't completely been pushed through yet. So that's what he was talking about when he referenced that, and that's a very, very scary thing.
When Illumicorp goes public, corporatism will be the foundation for world government. Conglomerates will merge into one cohesive corporation that is responsible only to Illumicorp and the needs of its global employment force. Illumicorp's control of the American military is another impressive tool in our possession.
Yes, he just did admit that they own the military too. They own the government, they own the banks, they own the military, they own all the corporations, they own all the important land, they own all the resources, and they consider themselves too big to fail.
We have nurtured these institutions lavishly to serve as the prototype for our global police force.
Global police force.
When ready, our technology and manpower will dominate those who oppose the coming New World Order.
And he finally come out and said it. The New World Order. And basically he's talking about using our military to wipe out anybody that opposes the New World Order.
By utilizing American patriotism, we have fostered in the American soldier the philosophy of peace through superior force. When the time is right, we will migrate that mentality towards the belief in a global government who must protect all people through superior force. We have used the American military-industrial complex to build the arsenal necessary to instigate the final cleansing outlined in Illumicorp's Great Plan. They also hold much of the remaining oil reserve of the planet. Illumicorp must own that precious resource, as it is crucial in maintaining our domination over the countries of the world.
Through Illumicorp's enormous federal funding of the military, we can develop new forms of warfare and population reduction. The public can't imagine what we were in the process of developing. Soon, even the weather will be a weapon under our control. We will be able to create droughts, floods, hurricanes, and even tsunamis with no fingerprints attached. The political system of America has been under direct control of Illumicorp for some time. It was actually a relatively easy acquisition, and has been even easier to manage. Politicians know of our unspoken agreement, and will do anything to stay in power.
A two-party system benefits Illumicorp, in that it reduces all issues into a black and white debate. Through media, we can play side against side, using each where necessary to support our goals. Due to a diminishing faith in the system among the public, Illumicorp has designed a rogue candidate program to provide a voice for the dispossessed. This disperses the impetus for dissent among those who do not feel represented by our candidates and builds a database of potential dissidents.
That too is very scary. For the people that are waking up, and for the people that are no longer starting to no longer buy into the two-party system, they're starting to be documented and viewed as potential dissidents.
At the turn of the last century, Illumicorp took a serious interest in public education. Our Supreme Council realized that by creating a private organization to dictate curriculum on a federal level.
In his words, at the turn of the century, meaning the Department of Education, ironically, was started in 1904, I believe, and which is also the same year that a bunch of wealthy financiers, I call them the Illuminati, got together under secretive names and met at Jekyll Island to discuss the creation of the Federal Reserve System, which coincidentally coincides with the fact that was the very same year that Aleister Crowley wrote the Book of the Law. All this happened, including the creation of the Department of Education in 1904.
Children could be conditioned into obedience on a mass scale.
In the interest of promoting Illumicorp principles in the classroom, hundreds of millions of dollars were invested to create the General Education Board in 1902. The result of doing this is evident today.
And if you can be honest with yourself, this is why kids are getting dumber and dumber and dumber with every single school year.
The doctrines of public education have transformed recent generations into a weaker, more docile mass. Through meticulously planned curriculum, we have control over the process by which the average child learns. Thus, we can mold them into obedient workers who are conditioned to accept the implementation of the Great Plan. In addition, Illumicorp has set up many associations, including the American Historical Association, that determine and uphold the official view of history. Knowledge is power, so we must at all costs be the authors of the truth.
Right here is also a clear admission of manipulating the history books. And this is why we're seeing such a big problem today with all the racism and the misinformation about slavery and all that. That's because they're deliberately manipulating history and using it to play it against each other. Everybody.
By writing history to suit our interests, dissenting voices cannot gain ground, and we can vastly influence culture to achieve our prime objective.
Vastly influence culture.
Illumicorp uses the media to shape the public's opinion about current events and condition desired attitudes about our future agenda.
Yes, he said that they use media to control desired attitudes in people. And this is why, if you always heard it referred to as television programming. Why is it called television programming? Because it's programming your subconscious. Don't forget the literal definition of entertainment is to detain the mind while something enters it. And he's talking about the media, which I like to refer to as the multi-ethnic divider in America.
Through news, entertainment, and advertising, we can program a variety of emotions and responses into the collective unconscious.
In the past, we were limited entirely to print media, but now we have multiple mediums to utilize in programming and conditioning the masses.
Programming and conditioning the masses right from the horse's mouth.
With cable news, we have directed the public to a more entertainment-based consumption of world events. Infotainment. This medium is far more effective at subliminal reinforcement of desired attitudes towards our objectives. For instance, we are currently instilling a sense of duty towards environmental issues.
With our growing control of the weather through HARP and chemtrails, we will scare the public into accepting our global protection agendas.
As he just mentioned, HARP. That was the thing that we were talking about that they use to control the weather. And chemtrails, people have been called crazy and conspiracy theories for years when they were talking about chemtrails. And again, he just flat out admitted it.
We will then phase into the great cleansing which must occur to return the global population to a manageable size.
The great cleansing to return the population down to manageable size. That sounds an awful lot like to preserve perpetual balance with nature. Just saying.
We reinforce the desired norm through advertising, creating a model for people to live up to that is virtually impossible. The result is an incomplete, desperate individual seeking acceptance. Through reality television game shows, we repeat the pattern of individual survival versus group survival. This breaks down the idea of community and breeds individuals who seek only their self-interest. With a
Is it any wonder why people are way more selfish than ever? By perpetuating the idea of individual survival, this is yet one of their exquisite divide and conquer tactics, among many that they have in their arsenal.
the public that is constantly suspicious and scheming, we maintain the status quo of a divided population that never thinks to look up.
Religion has served its purpose incredibly well. It is the oldest and perhaps the broadest form of social control utilized by Illumicorp. With religion, there is a written code of conduct that must be followed. The authors of the Holy Scriptures knew quite well how to lace that code with commands to maintain their dominance over the population. This system has survived through millennia to hold the flock together and bring us to today.
While I personally am a firm believer in the Bible, I usually make the reference of going by the original Bible. While I haven't had access to the entire thing, I know it's far different than what we have today. And this is pure evil manipulating God's word. That's why there are like 400 some different variations and translations of the English Holy Bible. Why would that be necessary? They're trying to screw with people. They're trying to confuse people. They're trying to turn people against God.
Admittedly, religion is losing its power for control. However, the fanaticism that has arisen due to this decline is particularly helpful to Illumicorp. Our invisible influence in the church has helped bring the Christian fundamentalists out of the background.
I hate to hurt your feelings, buddy, but it's not that invisible. Especially anybody with a brain, they can look at the Pope, they can look at Catholicism and see the pure evil. It's not very invisible, bud. Not very invisible.
We control their opinions on current issues through policies designed and written right here at Illumicorp headquarters. They are sent to our ministers, who then preach the Word of God and their interpretations of the Bible to their followers. Their blind faith is used to transform them into willing soldiers to defend our cause during the catastrophes ahead. As the final phase is enacted, we will propagate end-time prophecy to convince them of their convictions.
Okay, so right there, that tells you that they're planning catastrophes and that they intend on simulating the end time scenarios to get Christians to go with their convictions, and basically they're going to use that to help wipe them out.
The rise of Islamic fundamentalism works to Illumicorp's advantage as a threat that will demand violent action. In the coming years, planned terrorist attacks will warrant a full-scale retaliation and initiate the final phase of
9/11.
the Great Plan. Christians will support our actions, since they will believe them to be proof of the end times prophesied by Illumicorp's religious leaders.
New World. You are now a member of the Illumined. Let's talk about that for a second. If you can't tell with any kind of discernment that this is purely satanic, well, maybe let me make a connection for you that might help you understand. They said that you are illumined. They believe that they are the holders of the light. They are the enlightened. And would you look at that? What does Lucifer's name mean? The light bearer? The holder of the light? That simple, folks. Your loyalty and devotion belongs to only us. Help us finish the plan.
Now that you have a basic understanding of how we work over here at Illuminati, I would like to introduce you to one of our latest projects, the Control Grid. Since ancient times...
You know, it's funny, I just want to take a second to stop and mention, I don't know how many people I've heard mention they feel like their phone is a tracking device, like a tether. There's a reason for that.
It has been the desire of the Illuminati to wield control of the masses below, both to protect us from them, and them from themselves. The tools through the ages have been effective, but always blunt and inaccurate. But now, with the release of new technology to the masses, we have the real ability to implement a control grid, with finance, industry, government, and military under our strict control.
And what he's talking about is the RFID chip, or what the Bible would call the mark of the beast, as all your medical history would be on it, all your criminal records, all your financials. Okay, they're going to eliminate cash. You see it all over the place now. Oh, there's a shortage of change. There's a shortage of change. There's a shortage of change. No, there's not. They're phasing it out. That's why cryptocurrencies are popping up left and right. They want this to be a cashless society, and they want everything to go on the RFID chip, so that way if you decide not to comply, they can shut you off. It's that easy.
We can safely shift the population into a new world, monitored and controlled by Illuminati.
Technology such as the internet, GPS, and RFID chips are pillars of the invisible prison we are erecting around the people. Within the decade, we will have real ID cards that contain criminal records and pertinent information, all linked to federal databases. Cell phones will tell us where each individual is, linked to the same database. Through intelligence agencies and Homeland Security, we will monitor individuals who oppose the Great Plan and remove them from the grid. Quickly, the population...
Target those who oppose the Great Plan and remove them from the grid.
...will learn that they have a choice: support the system and benefit from its luxuries, or reject it and lose access to the grid.
Well,
like I said, comply or get cut off.
that was quite an overview. I hope it gave you an understanding of our process and basic overall structure here at Illumicorp. The dawn of a new era is on the horizon, and it will shine gloriously over the new world that we have built together.
So, let me know what you think in the comments
As
below.
you grow and mature as a Christian,
Pretty dismaying. Especially if you believe, and you should, what this man says. But anyways, guys, I want to thank you for stopping and taking the time to watch this. If you enjoyed this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can donate to my Patreon. The link will be in the description below. I'm trying to help build a platform of knowledge. This kind of information and knowledge is really hard to obtain. if you're not looking for it. So I want to reach as many people as I can, and once again, it begins with you, the viewer. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and we will see you next time. So long.